Back from the break with Dr. Tom Butler, who's a chiropractor. And, of course, we talk about a lot of health issues on this show, from hypertension, Tom, all those things, which Tom is a brilliant guy. In fact, the only reason he beat me at tennis, I'm a better athlete than he is. He's just smarter than me, and I hate that. So that's the reason he beats me in tennis, or anything for that matter, because he's more intelligent. That's the reason I have him on the show. I'm smart enough to know that this is my guy here. But we cover a lot of subject matter that gets real deep. But the one area that this guy's famous for and has made a living is the chiropractic. And interestingly enough, Tom, before we get into that, for Tom back in the 70s and 80s, you were chiropractic for it when it wasn't cool to some degree.
Sure.
It was kind of ostracized by mainstream orthodox medicine. Now you guys are very accepted. And why? Because you're dealing with the structure, the frame of the body, which that's something that orthodox medicine never really looked at. And there's so many other sides that they need to look at as well. But where your expertise is the frame and the posture and the structure of the body. So it's something that you've been adjusting people's problems for a long time, and probably adjusting the same people's problems for a long time for that matter. But I know with you try to give them exercises and tips to try to get them in line. You've shown me how I could adjust myself and how I can do things, which is a wonderful thing. But as far as postures, educate us a little bit here on, because I'm even clueless. I mean, I think, okay, my mother said sit up straight. I mean, but where are your feet? Where are your legs? Where's your derriere in position to that seat? All of that plays in, I'm sure, right?
Well, the big changes that have taken place is number one, people are getting more educated. They're watching shows like this, so they come in, they're knowledgeable. So, but part of that is they're sitting in front of a computer. So
slouched
TV or
over
computer,
generally?
yeah, TV or computer. So just generally, the way you sit and the longer you sit will have a protracted, like a pathology. So if you sit like this, you'll look like this. So to be that old blunt saying, if it hurts when you do that, don't do that.
Don't do it, right?
But what happens? Some of these postures don't hurt you immediately. They may hurt you in the middle of the night or the next day. So it's like a slow building trauma, as I call it, hanging by your ligaments. So if someone slouches in that recliner that's been, worn out for 10 years because he likes that recliner, it's probably got, duct tape and everything else on it. But anyway, there's no lumbar support and there's no pressure on his neck. So he's shaped like a C. So when he gets up, he wonders why he looks like that. See?
And then when he tries to straighten, even at that point, his body is kind of conformed to some degree around that as a defensive mechanism. Yeah. So when it tries to go back, it probably hurts when he tries to go back.
Oh, it's terrible. So if he leans even worse, it feels better.
So
I feel great as long as I'm like.
And so ultimately why, when you adjust people as well at first, they're sore and they get that it hurts off the front because you're putting them back in line. And
they all say, I'm taller. I'm like, yeah, you are. You're taller.
You're not leaning over. But the one thing that I see, and I sit up straight, but that involves the shoulders, does it not? It involves the neck and head. Not just the back and the spinal cord.
Oh, for sure.
It involves all the positioning of your feet, because I know driving, I find that from time to time. Do you recommend when people drive to scoot up close? I think a lot of people make the mistake of being too far away from the steering wheel.
Correct.
Because you can get in and out of the car easy.
Right.
But what that does is causes, and I noticed this at one time, I've learned long ago that I don't sit on my wallet anymore, because that's you might as well put a phone book under one side of you, Good. So I don't do that. But the one thing I noticed is that because of me sitting back too far, I'm leaning, I'm twisting to get to the gas pedal and the brake. And so I'm sitting in an altered position. Instead of straight up, I'm leaning over, which, what does that do? Shifts the weight, puts the weight on one side versus the other, puts the back in it. It probably curves the spinal column a whole bit, right?
Sure. I don't have that car right now, but my other nicer car, you would open the door and the seat went as far back as it would go. You could get out of the car. You would open the door coming back in, and it stayed back. As soon as you got in, it came back to where you had it adjusted. So just remember that, people. It's okay to scoot your seat back to get in and out. But once you're in, pull that seat up. And you should almost have a feeling of pushing yourself back, not leaning forward or listing forward.
Okay.
And going back to the home things.
Yeah, like sitting at a computer. What's the worst mistake? I mean, people leaning over, slouching?
Well, first, let's finish just the simple stuff. So everybody knows this, but gee, every once in a while, this is what's wrong. I mean, I've had people, this side of their neck hurts, and their head's turned to this way. Well, I'll say, well, do you have a chair at home you sit in? Yeah, I sit over on the right side of the room. My TV's on the left. I said, well,
there it is.
Maybe you ought to sit on the left and want to look over on the right. Anyway, so the same way, whether you're in church or whether you're at a meeting or whatever, try to line up with what you're trying to do. So that's the other thing in the car. Try to line up with it. Don't be leaning over on the armrest to drive. So and the same thing at work. So here's what I do at work. The first thing I have them do is they're all worried about the computer screen. So my first thing is I say, first sit in the chair correctly. So scoot all the way to the back of the chair. Right. It's hard to be erect when you perch at the edge.
That's
now, if you're only going to sit there for a minute, I really don't care how you sit. But so this isn't for you people that sit long enough, answer the phone, and leave. I'm talking about
15, 20 minutes or so.
Oh, my gosh, no. We know there's a company here in town where the people sit at the computer for 8 hours a day.
Right.
So it's so important. So what I do, and I've had really good luck with this, so we start them first in the chair, and if the chair's too high and they can't adjust it down, then they have to get something for their feet so they can stay erect this way. Then they move the chair all the way up to the computer, and the thing is, the first thing I've helped a lot of them with is most of the center of the screen that they're looking at is here.
Yes, okay.
Okay, so how am I gonna sit, Todd?
Okay, you're gonna sit where you can look
where I can see the.
Yes.
Okay,
so raise that up.
So raise it up.
Ah.
So start number one.
So
most of them have to put a couple of books in there. Almost all of them.
Interesting.
So it's right there. It's kind of at the bridge of your nose. The other thing, sorry, but after we work at computers for a while, and that's what got me. But anyway, you end up with a bifocal. Well, my other thing I've had them do is scoot up their chair where they're a certain distance, measure that, go to the store and just take their little bifocal or trifocal and set it in their purse or in their pocket. Get them a single focus lens that's just for the computer. So that just sits there for the computer. They never have to do this again.
Oh.
Are you with me?
Yes.
So number one, get it here, and number two, quit doing that.
Exactly. Okay. Because of the bifocals, you have to look up.
You have to. Yeah, if it's smaller lines.
And looking down.
If it's bigger, you have to look down.
Well, and looking down is opposed to looking at the same problem.
I get a little whiplash all day.
Right, because and it's not here or there. It's right in the middle.
Yeah, you don't have this problem, so you don't understand.
But I do whenever I'm, and I think everyone tends to have a computer screen that sets a little lower.
It's almost every one of them have to raise it.
95% of the people, I would say, because that's where mine is. And why? Because the desk is here, the computer is here, your head is here.
Oh my gosh, and what's a laptop?
And it makes it worse, doesn't it?
It's worse. Or like a little pad,
Interesting.
pads.
Interesting. And then in turn with that, Tom, as far as distance, I'm assuming that most of the time that people are setting too far away, just like in the driving side of things.
The mouse is a reach away.
Yes.
And
the keyboard is even where you're having to slouch a little bit.
But they always do the mouse. Now we're into the mouse because everything's kind of set up for that. Mm-hmm. So, but it seems to me that for some reason they want to. It's not heavy. So in their mind, it's okay to do this,
right? But look at where you're at.
Look at Todd.
Yeah, look at where you're at.
Does he look nice and straight? Isn't he going to get like a cramp here? He's going to get
That's a loaded question too, by the way.
Oh well, he's going to get a wrist problem here, and he may even have some thumb or forefinger irritation
simply because of the distance.
Yeah, because of the distance.
So bring it back. Bring
you're closing the carpal tunnel down. You're putting a bad angle. So pull it back. Get straight ahead. Get rid of the
the bifocals.
Get the wallet out of your back pocket, boys, because the same thing goes with the
driving. Sit
deeper
into that chair.
Sit deep into that chair.
Scoot up. And I think again though it's probably just not thinking number one, but two being kind of lazy because we sit down and we don't want to scoot that chair up and scoot it back out to get out. We just sit in there and adjust our body accordingly instead of adjusting the chair to that scenario.
Yeah, well. People, I don't sit for a living, so I may sound a little critical, but I'm just trying to help. So I'm the messenger. Don't shoot the messenger.
But I think
the thing is, if you sit there for an hour, you know, you're going to be okay. But we're going to go on to these exercises. If you don't care, we'll get started with one.
Sure.
One of them I just read. It was in an iJournal. It said 20, 20, 20. So you guys can remember the 20s. So every 20 minutes, they found out the people that focus like that don't blink enough. So one of the things they get is like a dry and other problems with their eyes. So every 20 minutes, if you can, think about blinking 20 times so you can bathe your eyes in some good chemistry. And then focus around the room at different distances so that your pupils get a chance to change. Right?
Interesting.
Yeah. Because have you ever noticed if you stayed at a computer for a long time and you have fairly good eyes, but once you try to look away, you're sort of disoriented, aren't you?
Because the body is used to staring in that one spot and it's kind of fixed there.
It's the same feeling when you get up and you're all stiff. So
interesting. The eyes get stiff.
The eyes get stiff. So that's why I use you guys. So now I got you the 20, 20, 20.
I love that.
And then once you get up, I love these. Do we have time to go
Yes,
through
sure,
a few
you bet.
things?
Yes. But in fact, I'll tell you what, let's take a break, folks.
Okay.
We're going to come back. We're talking about just the postures and setting right and the pressures that we put on our tendons and ligaments. Are you hanging? I love that, Tom. You feel you're hanging by your ligaments? Do not. That's the moral of this story of the show. Don't hang by your ligaments. We'll be back here with Tom Butler and some exercises that you can do to help your overall posture and the way you feel. So stay tuned, folks. We'll be back. Hang on.